dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And you're back on Liberty Nation Radio. I remain Mark Angelides, and Jim Fite continues to be Jim Fite. Thank you, audience, for sticking around. Now, we've just been talking about Trump RX, which, considering the lack of negative press against it, I would say that's probably a win in Trump's column there from the wider Fourth Estate. But there's another one that's very strange, and you covered it fascinatingly on the page of libertynation.com. But there was a recent appeals court win for Donald Trump. I think it was out of the Fifth Circuit, regarding his ability to deport people and to detain and deport people. Give us the details.
Yeah, so it was less about his ability to detain and deport people, well, initially, and more so about whether or not these people can bond out. So immigration, as I personally have recently learned, that sounded like I got busted by ICE or something, but through research, I have figured out now that illegal immigration is not a criminal offense; it's a civil offense.
Sure,
and so the rules are a little different. That's what explains the whole ICE not having to have a judicial warrant to force entry in the house, and also that's what's behind them being able to say if an illegal immigrant is arrested and slated to be deported, then they can't bond out. And of course, I guess the argument behind that is, well, obviously they're a flight risk.
Sure.
But so as we have as the administration has ramped up immigration enforcement, we've got millions of deportation arrests, a few million anyways, just since Trump has taken office again. And with that comes a bevy of lawsuits that, for the most part, at the several thousand lawsuits that for the most part, at the federal district level, Trump has lost. At the circuit level, however, he's had better success, and that's this circuit level win. So there were numerous U.S. district courts that had ruled against the Trump administration and for these detainees having the right to bond out if they were not captured at the border. So if, like, let's say it's some guy that's been here for 25 years illegally and gets arrested, under the previous interpretation of the rules, that was a different situation, and that guy could bond out. Well, right now, the Trump administration is saying, nope, it's all under the same rule. If you're an illegal for any reason, for any length of time, no bond. So, and a lot of the district judges have backed him up on that. What this ruling in the Fifth Circuit that came out here recently backs Trump, not the so it overturned a lot of these district court rulings. So that for the moment, unless this goes to the Supreme Court and they rule otherwise, which seems unlikely, that so for the moment, anyone being arrested for being here illegally doesn't get to bond out.
That kind of makes sense, though, doesn't it? I mean,
right, because you rounded these people up to deport them. No, it's not. We're not talking about people that are awaiting criminal trial and going to do some time in America. These are people who have maybe not committed an actual criminal offense at all, but they have committed the civil offense of illegal immigration, and it's just to round them up and send them out.
Yeah, I know there's you hear a lot of discussion about the difference between criminal and civil here, especially in the last year or so.
Yeah.
And what I tend to find is that the argument from the left is it's a civil offense. You know, why are we punishing people for a civil offense? And
right.
Now my liberty bone starts twitching, and I think, well, let's get rid of all civil. Let's just make it.
Traffic violations are civil
offenses
as well.
Yeah, sure. Let's get rid of all of them. But of course, that's possibly the more extreme reaction. But you either have civil offenses or you don't. And if you do, they need to be enforced. And if you don't, then you don't need to do anything. Yeah. And I think you made a very fascinating point there, where we keep hearing also, predominantly, I'm going to say almost exclusively from voices on the political left, and they talk about they're going in there without a warrant to go and pick somebody up. And that's actually the point, isn't it? Because it's a civil enforcement operation. We
Right.
don't have the requirement for a warrant. And I wonder if there could be like a new Connecticut compromise situation. Whereas, okay, the ICE won't go in without a warrant, but we've got to make crossing the border a criminal
An
offense.
actual criminal offense.
I mean, that's the trade-off, right? Is that
Hey, you talked about your Liberty Bell twitching.
Yeah.
When I found out about ICE having with the memorandum that was released a few weeks ago that was saying that like ICE doesn't have to have warrants for this, my eyes started twitching. I'm like, hold on now, we're busting in people's head. Like, I get the civil versus criminal difference, but let's game it out. Let's talk about the practical effect as the guy sitting in that house that ICE is coming into, whether you're an illegal immigrant or not. There is no practical difference. These are armed and armored men with violence of some form on their mind, whether that's just coming to get you or whatever. I mean, they're ready, coming in without a warrant. Like, it's on the receiving end, civil, criminal, there is no difference.
Sure.
That is purely illegal construction.
Yeah.
So like, as a guy sitting in your house, hoping your door doesn't fly off its hinges, you know.
Yeah, it's the Pandora's box of liberty paradoxes, I think. And like all Pandora's boxes, I'm kind of hoping that hope is still there.
Right.
But yeah, there's got to be some kind of compromise going forward, not necessarily with how things are executed, but the reality is that currently the majority support the deportation of the majority in America support the deportation of all people who have entered the country illegally, whether that's criminal or civil. Of course, it's civil.
Right.
Whether they've committed further crimes or not, the majority, and this is repeated ad nauseum across every poll, the majority want those people deported. Now, it seems to me that and this is my conspiracy mind working. It seems to me that the more ruckus that's politically created, the more confusion that's sown amongst the population. If that can carry on for a long enough period of time, that number is eventually going to switch because people get tired of this kind of constant propaganda.
Public opinion is definitely fickle.
It is indeed. Although it's been very, very solid, but it's a gradual erosion now, right? Because we see it first with now. A lot of people don't favor the way that ICE are doing things, whereas they did before. And it's a gradual erosion as things get on and on. Jim Fite, thank you for a fascinating conversation.
Anytime, Mark.
And that's all we have time for on this week's edition of Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I've been your host, Mark Angelides. I'd like to take a moment to thank our guests for today. You are appreciated, and to thank you, the audience at home, who takes the time each week to tune in and join us here on the Radio America Network. We're very grateful to have you. Please remember, Liberty Nation does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation, and this presentation is no endorsement.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.